Friends, today we will walk around an interesting ancient city called Side. Our city is located in the south of modern Turkey, close to cities such as Antalya and Manavgat. The city of Side has been known since ancient times. These are very large old antique ruins, an amphitheater, an old city, a temple of Apollo, and much more. Let us friends take a walk around this amazing place, because this place is worthy to make a separate historical issue and a walk about it. Let us walk together. While we are just entering the city of Side from the side of the parking lot, which is located at the exit to the historical center of the city, I will tell you some information. Side is a very unusual city. On the one hand, it is a typical Turkish resort on the Mediterranean coast, with all-inclusive hotels and developed infrastructure. On the other hand, one of the most interesting historical centers in the region and a functioning port. The sights of modern Sydney are viewing places where you can admire the city, the port and the sea, and in this regard, the most remarkable are the view, cafes and restaurants, as well as entertainment facilities of a family format, recreation parks in the vicinity and pirate ships on the water. Ancient Side is an ancient city museum located in the heart of the resort, a few steps from the port and hotels. Side is a port with the same centuries-old history as the oldest artifacts found in this territory. On boats and ships, you can go on an exciting sea trip. Take a completely different look at the city of Side. Everything looks different from the water. Visit sea caves off the coast. Relax on beaches inaccessible from land and swim in the sea. From Side, you can make your own or choose a variety of sightseeing destinations. Go to waterfalls, ancient cities, amusement parks and water parks, and your vacation at the resort will definitely not be boring. But here we come to the old buildings of Side. The entire territory of the old city in Side is surrounded by ancient city walls. This unique monument of ancient architecture has survived quite well to this day, despite the past thousands of years, and many natural disasters. For example, earthquakes, and human ones, fires and wars. Until now, the ancient walls of Side amaze the imagination of any person. Like many other ancient monuments of architecture and art, built in such a large number during the heyday of one of the largest cities in the Eastern Mediterranean. Briefly about the history of the construction of these structures. The very first city walls were built in Side around the 7th century BC. They were created by Greek settlers. Time passed, the city grew, and the fortress walls grew and expanded along with it. Old Side was located at the crossroads of many sea trade routes, so various rulers tried to conquer it many times. The city walls played the most important role in protecting the city, so they were erected on all sides of the ancient Side, both from the sea and from the land. But in the meantime, we are already at the entrance to the Temple of Dionysus. At the entrance you will have to pay a certain entry fee. But the one who bought a museum card with unlimited for 1 year can visit this place with it. In this case, you do not need to pay anything. In the old days, this place was the ancient Temple of Dionysus. It seems that these are not the most noticeable ruins in the historical center of Side. But it is not. It is worth going inside. The ruins of the ancient sanctuary are lost against the background of the amphitheater, to which the main streams of tourists rush. The remains of several Corinthian columns are located directly in front of the northwest facade and stand out only due to the lighter shade of the stone. The description plate next to it helps to understand what the monument of ancient architecture looked like 7 or 10 centuries ago. The ruins of the Temple of Dionysus can be viewed free of charge at any time of the day. As a rule, tourists visit the attraction together with the ancient amphitheater, the entrance to which is paid. The city of Side is loved by European tourists. The Germans are especially fond of it. Here are hotels suitable for people with different financial capabilities and ideas about relaxation. A beach holiday in Side goes well with immersion in the distant past. The amphitheater is proof of this. The construction of the Roman amphitheater at Side dates back to the 2nd century BC. A prosperous city that traded with the eastern Mediterranean. There were 2 ports, a place for public meetings, an agora, a market and public toilets. Side could even pay with his own coins. And, as in any important stronghold of the empire, its own arena was to appear here. A huge one, allowing the policy to emphasize its status and significance. The amphitheater was designed for 16,000 spectators and consisted of 58 rows. The seats of the semicircular spectator area were divided into 2 identical wings. Its 2-story stage, 63 meters long, was located on a small pedestal. It was decorated with antique statues and carved decorative elements. The arena in Sid Plus was the largest in Pamphylia. This was the name previously given to the area where the city is located. Initially, it was intended to show theatrical performances and gladiator fights. For the audience's favorite battles with wild animals, the stage was surrounded by a 1.5-meter wall. On the days of performances and bloody fun, the amphitheater was filled to the limit. Curious people flocked here from all over the area. The building has excellent acoustics. What was said on the stage was easily carried to the upper rows of the podium. It was possible to enter the theater through flights of stairs and through covered galleries. In the 5th and 6th centuries AD, the arena lost its original significance and began to be used as a church, and in the 7th century it was abandoned due to the Arab invasion. It gradually dilapidated and collapsed. Earthquakes often occur in these parts. Only in the 1960s, excavations began to be carried out on the territory of the amphitheater in Side, and attempts were made to restore the building. The columns were reinforced with props, and metal frames were installed in the internal tunnels. The antique statues and decorative elements found during the research were sent to the collection of the Side City Museum in 1964. Most of them are now kept in Rome. The arena is back to life today. Often, as in ancient times, singers perform here and theatrical performances take place. Thanks to the incredible acoustics and depth of sound, you can whisper on the stage without a microphone and every sound is perfectly audible even in the last rows above. Many artists dream of performing on such a stage, and the festivals and events taking place here make an indelible impression on the audience. The Side Amphitheater has become an open-air museum, well preserved despite the passage of time. Both the audience rows and the galleries leading to the stage and the main entrance to the building survived. Partially remained in the platform, where the nobility sat down. Unfortunately, due to the unsafe condition, the entrance to the upper rows, as well as the descent into the dungeon, are closed to tourists. But back to the topic of the outer defensive walls of the city. From the seaside, the fortress walls surrounded not only the peninsula on which the city was located, but even the seaport itself. Only a small narrow channel was open for ships to access, so during the next attack, enemy ships could not break through the deft defense of the narrow channel and get into the port. Unfortunately, this part of the walls of the old city has not survived, completely gone under the sea coastal sand. And now, the walls from the land side are the only reminder of the grandiose defensive structure of Side. Most of the city walls of Side were built in the 2nd century BC by the Greeks, and another, more massive and solid part, was erected a little later, in the 4th century AD by the Romans and Byzantines. The city walls, erected from the side of the bay in order to protect the city from enemies, were repeatedly demolished, rebuilt, repaired and reconstructed many times. Now part of the city walls located in the north and east of the old city is available to tourists and historians. Although they are badly destroyed, including thanks to the local population, which, after the era of wars, actively dismantled the fortress walls, consisting of massive stones, in order to build their own houses.
Новые дома вот эти все понастроили, их не было.
In the meantime, we have already entered the territory where there is a brisk trade in the summer and a large number of different shops are open. Before us is the so-called market in ancient Side. Here you can buy almost everything. Clothes and shoes, accessories, jewelry and bijouterie, cosmetics and perfumes, spices and oriental sweets, souvenirs. Despite the fact that the atmosphere of an oriental bazaar reigns here, this market is still different from other similar ones. Firstly, there are no tents and counters here. Each merchant has his own shop, with a sign, beautifully designed, more like a boutique. The ground floors of the houses were given over to retail outlets. Secondly, you can bargain on the market in the antique quarter, but the sellers here are more intelligent. They will definitely approach the buyer if they see that he is interested in the product, but they will not beckon on the street and aggressively offer their products. Thirdly, visitors can combine shopping with historical sightseeing. They are right under the feet of visitors. Artifacts found during excavations of the ancient city are visible through the glass tiles on the footpath. Fragments of columns, sculptures, mosaics, amphorae. The exhibits are illuminated, so they can be viewed in detail. This is the main highlight of the market in the antique quarter. Walking here, you can easily understand that not many architectural structures and historical monuments have survived to this day. But even from the surviving fragments, one can imagine and recreate the appearance of Side of ancient times. A walk through the ruins will allow you to travel for a moment to another era, which is separated from our days by dozens of centuries. A lot of information has come down to us from the history of Side. In the 2nd and 3rd centuries, Side, being the metropolis of the Roman province of Pamphylia, experienced the second period of its highest development and prosperity. Many monuments and statues that have survived in Side to this day were erected precisely in this era. The mint continued to operate in the city. Side was a recognized center of culture and education. The golden age of the city began to decline at the end of the 3rd century, when the hill tribes from the north began to attack the coastal regions of Pamphylia. During the reign of Emperor Julian II. This is already the 4th century AD. These tribes surrounded Side, but were driven back, after which the fortress walls of the city were repaired and updated. At the same time, a new stone wall was erected, which divided the city into southern and northern parts, and the entire population of Side moved to the southern part of the city. At the same time or somewhat later, the city walls were expanded and stretched beyond their original boundaries established during the Hellenistic period. In the 4th century, the inhabitants of Sid Plus, who previously worshipped Athena, Apollo, Aphrodite, Ares, Asclepius, Hygeia, Demeter, Dionysus and Hermes, converted to Christianity, and soon the city became the center of the East Pamphylian diocese. In the 7th century, regular raids by Arab pirates began on the coast of Pamphylia, including Side, as a result of which, by the 9th and 10th centuries, the city of Side was gradually completely devastated and destroyed, which is confirmed by the corresponding archaeological layers of ash and burnt ruins, discovered during excavations on the territory of Side. In addition, not a single Byzantine building was found in Side, erected after the 10th century, when the inhabitants of Side began to leave the city en masse. The Byzantine Emperor Constantine VII Porphyrogenitus in his treatise, On Themes, mentioned Side as a pirate den. The Arab geographer Al-Idrisi wrote in 1150 about Side as a once developed and populous city that was completely burned, and its inhabitants were forced to move to Italia, which was 2 days away from Side, which is why Al-Idrisi called Side Old Italia. By the 12th century, Side was already completely abandoned and, as a result of several earthquakes, turned into ruins. After the defeat of the Crusaders under Cadmus in 1148, Side, together with all of Pamphylia, came under the rule of the Seljukids. In the 13th century it became part of the Beylik Hamid, later Beylik Tekke, and in 1391, finally in 1442, the Ottomans took over the city and the entire region. Until the end of the 19th century, the territory of Side was uninhabited. Archaeologists did not find traces of life in the city either under the Seljukids, or under the Hamidagulars, or under the Osmanids. City buildings, partially preserved after earthquakes, were gradually swept up by sand brought by storms and hurricanes. Travelers who began to visit Side in the early 19th century called it the abode of ghosts. In 1895, Turkish settlers from the island of Crete founded a small settlement of Selimiye in Sydney, which later gradually grew and occupied the entire territory of the peninsula. But now we have entered the territory of the seaport of Side. Modern Side, still spread out on the coast of the peninsula, although it is no longer a major port, still has its own harbor at the tip of the city. Moored at the berths are snow-white yachts and sailboats, as well as stylized wooden ships that make boat trips for everyone. Numerous streets lead to the harbor through the city. Not far from the coast, the remains of ancient buildings are still preserved. From different parts of Side, very picturesque views of the harbor open up that simply cannot leave you indifferent. The port is a favorite place for walks of tourists and locals, especially in the evening. In addition to parking for yachts and sailboats, the port of Side is also the starting point for all kinds of water excursions. You can order them both in advance and on the spot. It is possible to conduct excursions with a Russian-speaking guide. Cruise on the Manavgat River. You will have the opportunity to go on a yacht to explore the Manavgat River. The standard excursion program includes swimming in the open sea, and if you are lucky, you will be able to see the marine life with your own eyes, then acquaintance with the stunning waterfall of the same name on the river, lunch and a stop at the local bazaar. The cost is €30 per person. Sea excursion. You will take a cruise along the Mediterranean coast with a stop at the coves, swimming in open water and lunch on the shore. An entertainment program awaits you along the way. The whole walk lasts no more than 3 hours. The cost is about €20. In the meantime, we are already walking along a section of the embankment in the city. This promenade goes far towards the hotels on the beach coastal area. Here the embankment ends, bringing the tourist to the Temple of Apollo. But while we are walking here, you can see a large number of shops and restaurants near the water. The long promenade in the Turkish city of Side in the Antalya region is one of the favorite places for the promenade among travelers. This is a pedestrian zone, which offers a view of the sea and the ships sailing on it. There are several art objects installed on the embankment, with which vacationers like to take pictures. The path is paved with light-colored paving stones. As you can see in the photo of the Side embankment, people walk here both in the daytime and in the evening when the lights turn on. In hot weather, you can take shelter in the shade of trees or go to one of the many cafes and try the famous local pomegranate juice. According to reviews, the Side embankment is the heart of the city, where the resort life is concentrated. The length of the Side promenade in Turkey is about 3.5 kilometers. I also want to tell you about the beaches of the city. The beach on the Side promenade towards Antalya. On one side of the coastal zone is a beach line called the West. These are places near the water, equipped with everything necessary for a comfortable stay. The photo of the beaches on the Side promenade shows that it is always crowded here during the season, so you should come early to take a seat on a sunbed. Or you can sit on your towel right on the sand, but finding a free place near the water will not be easy. The city's West Beach is visited mainly by guests of hotels located on the Side embankment. Looking at the photos of the beaches on the Side promenade in Turkey, You can understand that the rest here will not be quiet and secluded. The sun loungers are quite close to each other. There are a lot of them. The beach strip is not wide. Of the advantages: sand cover, well-developed infrastructure in the area. Due to the fact that the depth near the coast is small, families with small children like to relax here. And there is a second beach, or rather small beaches along the coast near ancient buildings. They are already located on the eastern part of the city, where we are going. Thus, we have already reached the main location of this city. Before you are the remains of the Temple of Apollo in Side. The construction of the Temple of Apollo in Side dates back to the distant 2nd century BC, approximately 150 years. They erected a temple, as you might guess, in honor of the ancient god of the sun and beauty, the son of Zeus, Apollo. The son of Zeus, Apollo, according to legend, looked like a handsome young man with golden hair and a perfect body. Everywhere he went with a bow made of silver and arrows made of gold. Apollo knew how to predict what was ahead, and was also the god of the arts and science. Travelers and navigators considered him their patron. Apollo granted forgiveness to people who committed a grave sin, murder. According to legend, Cleopatra, one of the most beautiful Egyptian queens, and the warrior Mark Antony, the famous commander of ancient Rome, held secret meetings in the Temple of Apollo in Side. The Temple of Apollo was built for decades and steadfastly withstood 8 centuries, but in the 10th century AD, unfortunately, it was very much destroyed by a strong earthquake. Nowadays, the ruins of the Temple of Apollo in Side are protected by the government of the country. The remains of destroyed white stone columns and stylobates are carefully preserved and restored by restorers. The 5 surviving most famous columns are now the main symbol of the city of Side. The temple was built in the form of an even rectangle, which in the language of architecture is called a periptera, and from all sides it was originally surrounded by 34 beautiful columns made of white marble, standing in one row around the entire perimeter of the building. Its dimensions were 17 by 30 meters. There were 6 columns along the short walls of the temple, and 11 columns along the long ones. The height of the columns was 9 meters. The tops of the columns are decorated with various images, plant ornaments and very interesting views of the head of the Gorgon Medusa. The parapet of the temple was erected in the Corinthian style. The Temple of Apollo itself was built entirely of white stone, marble. The Temple of Apollo is located on the very seashore. The area around it is not closed, so any tourist can come and see the ruins of the temple at any time and absolutely free. At night, colored lights are turned on around the temple. In the immediate vicinity of the Temple of Apollo in Side is another famous historical temple, Artemis. They were built at about the same time and complemented each other. Like Apollo, the symbol of the sun, complements Artemis, the symbol of the moon. The temples are located opposite each other, reminiscent of these celestial bodies replacing each other, so excursions here often combine these 2 attractions. But now we are already on the eastern side of the old city, returning back towards the amphitheater. I must say that outside the city walls there is a large number of necropolises. Here are various types of graves and tombs, monuments in the form of temples, or modest, without reliefs, sarcophagi. In the western necropolis there is a monument tomb, on a stepped pedestal, resembling a temple with columns. Marble sarcophagi are found in the niches of monumental mausoleums. Here you can already see how the synthesis of history and modernity takes place on the streets of the city. For example, a stone's throw from the Temple of Apollo on a small beach you can swim in the sea, and again plunge into the ancient history of Side. But as we go further towards another very large ruins, we have already visited the agora, the amphitheater. What else to do in this city? Of course, visit the ancient Roman baths. Or rather, visit what is left of the baths. This is the so-called port bath. The bathhouse is one of the historical treasures of Side. The building was built by order of the mayor of the city in the 3rd century. At that time, Turkey was a large and powerful state with developed trade, the main factor of which was shipping. Therefore, each port of the state had an important strategic significance. In the ports, as a result, many unique and significant structures were erected. The port bath differed from other urban structures in many ways. She also counted on attracting visitors, demonstrating the strength and development of the state. According to tradition, before letting a visitor into the city, he was first washed. The structure had a rectangular shape, reached 60 meters in length and 40 meters in width. The building consists of 4 large halls and 3 small rooms. For all the time of its existence, the bathhouse has often been restored and rebuilt. Later, 2 gymnastic salons were attached to it. Roman baths are the oldest bath complexes in the history of the world. They appeared before our era and quickly won the love of the inhabitants of ancient Roman and ancient Greek policies. Gradually, their significance expanded and grew and turned into almost a culture of pastime. Moreover, the fee for using the terms was purely symbolic. Roman baths have survived to this day, retaining their original appearance as much as possible. The main feature of the Roman version of the bath is the presence of a thermal spring. The ancient inhabitants of Greece and Rome used the forces of nature, and the baths were always built in the immediate vicinity of a warm spring with mineral water. Friends, thank you so much for watching this short issue to the end. Be sure to subscribe and leave your exquisite comments under this video. And in addition, be sure to look under the video for a short description. There is an opportunity to sponsor our small outings, releases, next excursions. You can become a donor. You can order postcards to your door. Issues can be sponsored. In general, thank you very much. Subscribe to the channel. Give this video the pros and cons. And we'll see you in the next episodes. All the best and see you. And the last thing I wanted to add to you. Be sure to go to the channel. Watch other new releases from different countries. Georgia, Russia, Turkey, Belarus. Playlists for these countries are specially divided for your ease of navigation. Well, it seems, and all the basic information about this city that interests you. Side is a paradise for lovers of the Turkish all-inclusive system. In this resort you will find resorts for every taste. If you are coming to Turkey for 2 weeks or less, I recommend staying at a hotel and choosing all-inclusive. Before buying a tour, I advise you to read the latest reviews of tourists or watch reviews of bloggers, since 5-star hotels in Turkey are very different from each other. They may have a different level of service and a set of services. Side is a vacation paradise. There is everything for both lazy and active sightseeing holidays. You can move around Side by minibuses. For the convenience of tourists, the names of hotels are written on the doors of each car. The city is of course popular among tourists from Germany, England, Scandinavia, so the cost of a check in a restaurant is slightly higher here than in some other resorts in Turkey. For food, we recommend trying fish and seafood, as well as traditional Turkish cuisine. If you step aside from the ancient city, you can save a lot. At the same time, the quality of food can even be higher. In the meantime, we are walking back towards the entrance to the old city. This is the direction through the gates of the old center towards the ruins of the ancient fountain, from where we started the route, where the ancient agora was also located. Well, perhaps that's all. We got such a quick express tour. Thanks that watched up to this point. Well, I recommend that you watch other videos about Turkey, Russia, Georgia, Belarus, United Arab Emirates on this channel. There is a lot of historical overtones. Think, you'll like it.
Вот эта арка в виде моста, наверное, была. Еще, наверное, какой-то дополнительный мост туда уходил. И по этому мосту тоже люди в амфитеатр заходили.
Subscribe to the channel in advance, press the bell and do not miss new releases. Also, if you have the opportunity, you can make a small donation in order to the releases were even brighter and more intense. To do this, it is enough to make a translation by the screenshot on the video, or use the links in the description under this video. Keep you from adversity. And we'll see you in future episodes. Don T. Skip. And, friends, a postscript. At the exit of the museum you will find such a pediment with an eagle. This is a GED belonging to the tomb. This pediment belonged to the tomb building in the western necropolis of the city. The central figure is formed by a large eagle. He stands on a shield and cuirass. To his right are a helmet and a pair of leggings. To his left is another helmet, a pair of spears around the shield. An eagle and similar military equipment can mean victory in battle and booty from the enemy. Therefore, the owner of the tomb may have been a famous military figure. Well, that's all for now.